One of the toughest parts about working in production and animation is, well, having the tough conversations. As I've said in other videos, production is very often the bad guy. In my experience, production staff, whether you're a brand new production coordinator or a seasoned line producer, everyone struggles with having tough conversations at work. Such conversations could be telling someone that their personal hygiene at the studio is making other people around them uncomfortable, or telling somebody that you're not able to extend their contract for another season. Production coordinator to line producer, we are in positions of leadership. And part of that role is often giving feedback to your fellow production teammates, artists, and supervisors. Keep in mind that studios often have a specific framework for how and when feedback can and should be delivered, and that the level of responsibility for providing feedback differs among production positions at different studios. In this video, I'd like to offer a few resources that have really helped me become more comfortable with having tough conversations at work. Read these books, whether borrowing them from the library, listening as an audiobook, or purchasing from your favorite local independent bookstore, and I'm sure you will feel much better the next time you're in the hot seat. I recommend these 4 books in particular over and over again in the work context when it comes to managing tough conversations. Fierce Conversations by Susan Scott is great because Susan Scott practically gives you a script to follow for tough conversations, or as she prefers to call them, fierce conversations. Additionally, she gives many high-stakes anecdotes from her work as a corporate consultant and mediator that shows how she puts her own advice to the test. Ask for More by Alexandra also makes a list because when I say tough conversations, the first one that probably comes to mind is one in which you are terminating someone's contract. However, tough conversations often include negotiating a wage or a salary change, or working with your team to ask for more overtime, or a big push that may involve working weekends, thus taking away precious time with their families. That's where Carter's book comes into play, and she offers many interpersonal and relatable anecdotes to help you improve your tough conversation game. You've probably heard of Radical Candor by Kim Scott, arguably the buzziest how-to tough conversations book that's come out over the last few years. I like this one because of its emphasis on giving feedback quickly and directly rather than drawing out or avoiding a tough conversation. Kim Scott makes it accessible and attainable. We Need to Talk by Celeste Headlee makes the list because I think having tough conversations begins with our ability to converse to begin with. The art of good conversation and being a good conversationalist is something that personally I aspire to. And Headlee reminds us that being able to have a tricky conversation starts with truly listening and speaking thoughtfully, period. I'd like to say that it is totally normal to still dread and feel anxious about having tough conversations at work, even if you've read all the books and have followed all of the advice. Sometimes the only way out is through, and also feeling such dread and guilt is just a part of being a compassionate, empathetic human being. I'd also like to say that in my experiences, tough conversations that may end in termination are not because the person themselves are inherently a bad crew member. I have found personally that it is just as likely that culturally, the studio, show, or even the role itself is just not a good fit. For example, perhaps the person in question is better suited to VFX work rather than working in a mid-sized studio, or perhaps they need to be on site rather than working remotely. For example, I have seen leads struggle immensely, only to find that they vastly prefer and succeed in being a senior artist. I have seen people who can't seem to get the hang of the timeline and workflow at a mid-sized studio who go on to enjoy tremendous success in a VFX environment where they have more resources and better technical support. Lastly, I will say that I absolutely agree with the saying that the source of most of life's woes are mismatching expectations. Ensuring that you set people up for success, keep communication lines open and expectations clear are a few ways that you can head off tough conversations. And when you are headed for a tough conversation, make sure you check out the books mentioned in this video to ensure that you're equipped and ready.